Okay, I believe I've successfully hit the record button. It's 6 o'clock. I think we can get started. A few housekeeping details here. As a preliminary matter, this is Greg Roy, the chair of the committee. I will do a roll call to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear. So I'm just this is in no particular order. Dave Passios.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
Michael Ray.
Here.
Michael Mackin.
Here.
Tanner Cole. Muted, Tanner.
Here. Here.
Did I catch all the committee members? Yes. Okay, Ed?
Yes.
Tom?
Here.
Heather?
Here.
Okay. And I see we have Peter and Katey as well. Do you want to just do a mic check there, Katey?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, everybody. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel, and this meeting of the TCP Building Design Committee is being conducted remotely. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus, and steps communities can take to prevent the spread, and all town facilities are currently closed to the public. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 Information Center page, access to the town manager's webpage, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the TCP Building Design Committee is convening via video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to share your screen on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We will turn now to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, a few ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses. Once the chair has a list of all public speakers, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes. We're not going to be strict on 3 minutes for any comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So our agenda. Our Our first item of business is committee reorganization. And I put this on there because we have a new member and we lost a member. Not that we had a member that was one of the, chair, vice chair, or clerk, but I thought we'd put this on there as we're a new board to see if we want or need to make any changes. So I'll start. I'm perfectly happy to continue as chair. I'm also perfectly happy to yield that position to someone else. So I can't imagine there'll be any takers, but so that's me.
Hi, Mr. Chair. This is Dave. Greg, I have no issue with continuing the same position. However, the same thing. If anybody would like the opportunity, more than happy to relinquish.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
I just have a quick public comment. I know we don't have public comment on our agenda, but as a committee, we haven't posted any minutes for any meeting. And I think as we reorganize and get ready for 2020, it's advisable that we at least post our minutes. So.
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm happy to relinquish the job as secretary.
Okay. So the secretary's role is minutes. So perhaps we should come up with a, maybe we need to divide and conquer this a little bit, or I'm happy to take suggestions. All of our meetings are recorded for posterity purposes, so they can be, we can review them and afterwards and jot down the appropriate, to log the minutes after, if that helps. But it's been on my mind as well, Tanner. I appreciate you bringing it up. So we really should get to the bottom of that. So I sort of leave it up to the.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
May I make a suggestion?
Yep.
The way that this was approached with the school building committee was that draft minutes were completed by the consultants as an part of their role in supporting the work of the committee.
Yep. Any thoughts on that, Tom or Ed?
Yeah, so we typically do that anyway. So actually, personally, part of the way I process things is to write things down. So we will initiate a draft and then seek comments, and then we can finalize that.
That would be terrific.
And let us know if there's a particular format that the town would like.
Yeah, I can give you I can send you a format. Typically just use the, something similar to the agenda with less words at the beginning, but follow through that and do a roll call and things like that. So, okay, I appreciate that.
So, I mean, the content is the content, so we want to make sure it's, especially when decisions are made, and we want to make sure it's well documented.
Okay.
Tom, do you want to take lead tonight on the minutes, and then I'll review them against my notes, and then we can.
Yeah, so in a few days we will send a draft out.
Okay, given that,
Mr.
Mike, are you? Go ahead, Tanner, sorry.
Personally, I don't agree with it because I feel like going forward, we're probably going to have meetings where the design group may or may not be involved if we're doing public outreach and so on. So from my perspective, that responsibility should sit with the committee. We're still going to need to select somebody as secretary anyhow. And in my mind, we should be doing that work. We shouldn't be paying a consultant to keep track of our meetings for us. And on another note, going back through 2019, I don't know where we sit in terms of draft minutes for all of our previous meetings, but is that responsibility again fall on the new secretary, and are they going to have to go back and retroactively create minutes for all these meetings, or is that going to be done by our previous secretary?
Yeah. I don't know if I follow you there. I don't know why it matters who drafts them. Are you just saying you don't want to pay for them, or?
Well, no, what I'm saying is up until tonight, we had a
Yeah. Well, I was talking moving forward. There's an issue moving backwards, but I was talking your first point about moving.
So the one point I have is going back and putting everything in order for 2019. And then going forward, I mean, I would assume that DeGiorgio isn't going to do this for free. And in my mind, I don't want to use taxpayers' money to record minutes.
All right, well, do we have any volunteers to do it?
Well,
Just a note that I'm on 3 appointed committees and 1 elected committee. I cannot take anything else on at this point.
I think we're going to all find ourselves in that situation. But
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing it. I would like clarification as to, am I going to have to go back through the 2019 minutes? And
I have a suggestion on that, Tanner. I guess my suggestion is that we divide and conquer that. They're all recorded. We can go back, and I'd like to do that. I think it's, at this point, we are where we are with respect to that, and we just need to come up with a plan for how we're gonna get those published. I'd like to I don't think we can resolve that tonight. I think probably what I should do is put that on an agenda and come up with I'll enumerate the meetings that we've had, and I'd like to suggest that we tackle that, and we come up with who's going to do what. But you're right, Tanner, we need to get those published. I appreciate the comment.
And I mean, I don't know where we go from a statutory standpoint. We're responsible for posting the minutes. We haven't done it. In my mind, it should be whoever was secretary for 2019 should be tasked with that. But I also don't know, can we go back and, divide and conquer this thing? I mean, what's the right way to handle this situation, I guess, is really my question. And so, and as I said, I have no problem with doing it going forward. I don't know that I'd want to take the responsibility of going back through all of our meetings for 2019. But I think it's something we need to get done, so.
I agree. So separating the two issues, have you volunteered to take on clerk for moving forward?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody else that is interested in any of the 3 positions? Okay. Let's just do this.
Greg, I'd like to make a motion that we retain you as chair, Dave Blatt as vice chair, and elect Tanner Cole as the secretary going forward from this evening.
This is Brian Leighton, and I second.
Okay. I'll take a roll call, no particular order. Dave Passios.
Yes.
Before I do this, is there any discussion? No.
No.
Okay. Dave Passios. Yes. Do you have a discussion, Dave?
Yeah, I basically just I wanted to touch base on Tanner's point about the. I would like to make the recommendation that when the architects are with us, that they could do the minutes and supply us. They could do the minutes and supply us to Tanner or to the committee for review. We could still post them. However, when we have meetings without the architects and the other meetings, then it's going to fall on the responsibility of the secretary to do the minutes. So I don't have an issue with using their notes so that, because in a way it's our checks and balances to make sure that the action items that we laid out during the meeting were recorded and that they acknowledge some of the things we talked about.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, this is Brian. Just to go back on what Tanner's comments were about the finances too, but if it's going to cost money, I would say we should just do it ourselves if there's a cost to it.
Go ahead, Tom.
It is really part of, we will be taking notes regardless if you folks are taking notes, because we need to share the information with our team. So that's
We can share the notes, yeah.
Yeah, so it might be a different format, but as far as the contents, even
Okay.
without the nice discussion, we're going to do it anyway. So
So it sounds like you're willing to supply us your notes as part of the already agreed to contract price, and we can take those and Tanner can take those and turn them in, use them or not use them in minutes. Does that sound
Yeah.
acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will take a roll call vote. Dave Passios,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Michael Ray,
Yes.
Michael Mackin,
Yes.
Tanner Cole,
Aye.
Dave Blatt,
Yes. Aye.
and I for me. Okay. So our next agenda item was to review and approve minutes, and we will, like I said, I appreciate your thoughts on this, Tanner, and I think that we need to come up with a plan to do this. So what I suggest is that the next meeting, I will summarize all the meetings we've had, and we will hash out a plan at that point to get that done, however that needs to happen. I'm not sure that we need to have the previous, we need to have Mike Mackin do that. I'm not sure. Got to remember all
This
volunteers.
is Brian.
But,
I'm
go
willing
ahead,
I'm willing
Yeah.
to do some of the minutes too. If you want to send out a message even after the meeting, just of
okay,
assigning people some meetings, feel free to send me some.
okay. That's fine. Maybe I'll do that then. I can do that via email. We can get this done offline if that's acceptable to everybody. Okay. Third agenda topic is a status update from our architects. So Tom and Ed, I will turn it over to you folks, whichever of you would like to dive in.
Yeah, I'll start. Tom and I were talking about how we would present tonight. So I'm going to start the conversation, and Tom will end the conversation with his user group meetings and his contact with different town members and town boards. So we sent out earlier today several documents. One was a summary of the field observations from last Wednesday. We had 10 engineers and architects in the building doing our inspections inside and out. We had the architects out there, structural engineers, MEP engineers, hazmat, environmental, and civil. So we had 10 people on site. Hazmat was on site for a second day, continuing with the sampling. And then yesterday we had 2 of our folks doing the scanning of the building inside and out. So I'm going to start off with just a summary. We had sent over just a real summary, high-level summary of the observations from the different engineering groups. And the documents that you've seen will be put into the reports in a much more detailed fashion, but we just wanted to hit like the big picture, the big highlights. So the document that I had sent over starts off with user meetings, executive summary, and then Tom's notes about the space assessment meetings, which he'll talk about after I discuss the building condition observations. So starting off with the structural observations.
And can I interrupt you just 1 second?
Yeah.
Would it help if I shared this or?
Yeah.
All right, let me do that. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Am I able to control this?
No.
Okay, maybe we can scroll downward toward the first page. It says structural engineers observations.
Okay. Second.
It's probably page 10.
Oh, 10, okay. This one right here?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So in general, we were able to make limited observations of the building structure itself because of the finishes. The crawl space behind the gym was not accessible. There was some other crawl spaces under the floors that were not accessible, but we looked at what we could look at. In general, the bones of the building are in good shape, except the library addition, that red painted CMU block addition that's was put on in the 1970s. And I believe that's probably scheduled to be demolished as part of the removal of the wing that's back there, the 1952 wing. I know that's still subject to discussion. In general, your structure's in good shape. The building's a combination of concrete foundations, wood framing, brick and CMU block bearing walls, some structural steel trusses in there, wood roof deck. Some of the renovations you've had in the past replaced the wood roof deck with steel deck. But in general, it's in good shape, except for that CMU block library. What's happening with the library, there's active roof leaks through the metal deck. You could actually see the water dripping through the seams of the metal deck. And the CMU block that's painted is suffering from a lot of freeze-thaw damage. The shells are cracking and pretty much exploding, and there's a lot of deterioration. The blocks turn into powder because of trapped moisture. So that's something, if for some reason that was kept in the program, there'd be some significant reconstruction of the CMU block bearing walls for that piece of the building. The kind of jumping down to the notes a little bit, the roof needs to be replaced, and I think everybody was probably already aware of that. It's been patched quite a few times. There's ponding water. The drains aren't in great locations because there's still water ponding elsewhere on the roof. There was a lot of visual leak damage in the ceilings, especially where the sloped roof areas came down to the classroom roof. So there was a lot of, you could see the staining from the water and some water that got into the rooms. So we're going to recommend a complete roof replacement for the building. Another major area of concern that's going to need a lot of restoration is in the boiler room. The main chimney, which used to have an incinerator attached to it, there's a roof leak at the chimney, and it's rotting out the wood framing that's adjacent to it, and the water's running down the inside face of that wall into the boiler room. So you've got a lot of mold growth, a lot of deterioration of the brickwork, the paint's peeling off. So as part of when the roof's replaced, that'll take care of the leakage, but the masonry is going to have to be repaired and repointed. And the above roof areas of the chimney need to be repointed as well. A lot of deterioration in the brickwork. We found random cracking here and there throughout the building, which is to be expected for a building of this age. We didn't see any significant building settlement issues, just your typical cracking you would see from thermal movements of the building. All of the joint sealants on the exterior should be replaced, be it window, door, masonry. They're all dried out, they're shot, they're peeling. And the brick masonry in general is good shape, but there's areas that need some repointing, especially in the classroom wings where you've got the brick masonry below the window sills. The brick goes right down to finished grade, so you get a lot of backsplashing that's deteriorating the brickwork and the mortar. And actually the front of the building has quite a bit of cracking through the brickwork that needs to be replaced as well. So there is some brick masonry restoration to be done. But that's not wholesale for the building. It's spread out for the building. And Tom can speak more about the architectural components like windows and doors, but the wood panels that are above the windows, some of those appear to be rotted, the paint's peeling off, so there's going to be some restoration needed for the wood that's above the windows. You may have to replace some rotten boards, refinish the wood. And as part of the roof replacement project, we'd recommend relocating or adding some roof drains. And over some of the doorways where there's canopies, those need to be redrained to gutters because some of the water is running right off against the face, causing a lot of algae and deterioration of the face brick. The main entry where there's a lot of nice stonework, there's a couple columns there and a back wall that need to be repointed. The stones have moved a little bit. Again, nothing significant, but just what you would see from a normal building of this age. So just repointing of the stonework at that main entry. So those are kind of the highlights. Again, the report will get into the nuts and bolts of all these issues we're talking about here on the summary. So if we scroll down a little bit on the MEP, so the boilers in general are in a very good condition, according to our mechanical engineer. There's one that he felt should be demolished, the Will McLean boiler, because it's not appropriate for the system and the system changes that they would be recommending as they move forward with their report with recommendations to improve the HVAC system. So they looked at the different boilers that are out there, the different brands, and this summer report lists their opinions on the conditions. And again, the Will McLean should be removed. If we go down a little bit more on the screen.
Hold, so 1 second. My computer is slow here.
Oh, okay.
1 second.
So in general, aside from the boilers, they're recommending replacement of all the air handler units because they're old, they're beyond their life cycle, and the HVAC system as a whole doesn't meet the current mechanical and energy codes. So, and also there's concerns about not meeting the current ventilation codes with the existing MEP equipment as far as the ventilators. So their recommendation is going to be to replace all the existing air handlers with new systems to comply with the current energy and mechanical codes. Now, this is just based on the way the building's configured today, understanding that this project is to look at the reuse of this building and bringing in other user groups and moving petitions around. This will all play into their recommendations for how these new systems are laid out and the new equipment that they're going to recommend as we get into the design development phase. The plumbing fixtures, if we move down a little bit, they're recommending replacement of all the plumbing fixtures because they're outdated. They're recommending the low flow fixtures. As I had mentioned before, the roof drain should be replaced as part of the roof replacement project because they're not always at a low point. And I also mentioned about scuppers and other drains that needed where there's some parapets and at some of the canopies where the water's just draining up against the building. So they're making, you can see they're making some recommendations for some changes to the plumbing system as well. So on the fire protection, part of the new design is to recommend fire protection throughout the building. The classrooms currently are not sprinkled, just the corridors. So as part of the SD and DD phase, looking at the new arrangements of space within the building, they'll be looking at a fully sprinkled building, which may mean that the fire service coming in off the street may need to be upsized because now you're dealing with the more sprinkler piping within the building. Down below in the electrical, they found some of the electrical panels have the old school screw-in fuses. They're recommending as part of the new project that those panels be replaced with the new circuit breaker style, and that the lighting fixtures be replaced with any energy efficient LED fixtures. The existing generator, we understand, it's working, it's exercised on a regular basis. The size of that would have to be assessed for the new project and the new electrical loads that would be put into the building. There was also some concern about the existing transformers. If they have PCBs in them, they may need to be replaced with more environmentally friendly transformer units. So again, these are the highlights of the observations. Again, as we move into the detailed reports, they'll get into the nuts and bolts of these with more detail and recommendations. And again, as we move into the schematic design and design development, the MEP engineers will be working with the architects and providing recommendations for the new systems that are appropriate to the new interior building layout. So if we go down a bit more. This comments on the fire panels and comments on the security system. Now, we know that the security system is going to be looked at in the new designs as well. From what you have there now, there'll be a need for a new security system as you look at secure vestibules to get into different areas of the repurposed building, and how you're separating use groups in the new design. So there'll be a need for further study of the security with new security systems. The next item's the hazardous material sampling. Again, our hazmat specialist was taking samples for 2 days last week. All the samples are now in a lab. We're awaiting the test results. Once the results come back, he'll put together a report that will tell us exactly what they found in the different materials. The report, I'm sure you've seen the hazmat reports before. It's going to identify where the sample was taken in the building, what type of sample it was, and what the results are. So typically there's a 7-day lab turnaround time. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to get a report from him on what the findings are. I believe the next piece of this is from our environmental consultant. We're doing a phase 1 assessment. So she went through the building, the interior, looking at issues such as oil spills, looking at equipment that's in the building, looking at the transformers. She went around the site with John Launder, looking at the areas where there were underground storage tanks, and some other areas of concern on the property. So I won't go through all this in detail, but she did do a pretty thorough job identifying where there's some fuel oil spills inside of the building. She has some photographs in there of leakage that's in the building from fuel oils. And she's identified where there were underground storage tanks. And this is just very basic in a summary. She's going to be putting together a very comprehensive phase 1 report. She's going to be doing additional research on the properties. There's an environmental report that she's going to get a hold of that covers the property, both the school. The limits of the environmental phase 1 are the same limits as the survey, which included the Brooks House all the way down to Massachusetts Avenue. So the 12 acres that covered the survey, she's covering with the phase 1 assessment. So there'll be some additional information coming out of her final report with recommendations on what the findings are. So we know there were some tanks there that John pointed out. Tanks were removed. She looked in the boiler room, looked at where the incinerator was, made similar comments that our hazmat consultant would have made about potential asbestos and PCBs. She picked out some other general environmental issues, such as, you can see here, rat poisoning, insect, improperly stored chemicals, paints, things like that. Other hazardous materials that would get picked up too, like the mercury fluorescent light bulbs, lead-based paints, batteries and such. So again, this will be part of a comprehensive report that she's going to be working on. So that's, I believe, the end of this piece of the report. I would like to add, our civil engineer was also on site, finishing up his field observations. In general, he didn't see anything on the site that raised great concern. He saw the normal wear and tear that you would normally see on a site this old, as far as cracked pavement, cracked concrete. He said the landscaping's not in bad shape. So nothing of great concern with the civil site related items. I sent over to late this afternoon an updated land surveying set of drawings. They're almost finished with those. They just need to chase down a couple more utility related items that'll go on those survey drawings, and the land survey plans will be finished. We expect those to be finished very soon. So what we've just talked about will be all folded into the report that will cover what we call task 3, which is in the contract, is evaluating the existing building, and task 4, which covers hazmat, civil, land surveying, environmental. We propose to pull those into one comprehensive report for you. The one design discipline that hasn't been on site yet is the traffic study, which we've talked about. We're going to be studying 5 intersections, as we've talked about at previous meetings. We're waiting to find out what happens with school. Ideally, the traffic studies will be done when school's open, because you'll get your peak morning and afternoon traffic flows through those intersections. So we're not sure what's going on yet with the school reopening. I know most communities probably don't know at this point. So ideally, if school does reopen, we'd be out there doing the traffic studies September or October to get those done. So any questions on any of that?
Anybody have any questions before we move on? And I can't see everybody because I'm still sharing. Hold on one second.
I guess the only concern that I would have is in terms of the traffic study, depending on what the school committee decides school's going to look like this fall, I'm concerned that we're not going to get an accurate study out of it. I can't see where under these circumstances, we're going to get just as many kids and buses and the same routine going into this site. So I don't know how we could adjust the study, create some allowances or something, but there was a traffic study done when the existing school, the new middle high school was built. And in my opinion, there's too much traffic backing up on 2A during drop off pickup. So I'd hate to go through this whole process again, only to end up in the same exact position. So.
Greg, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Dave Palacios. In that regard, I honestly think if, depending on what type of a school opening we do, that we're actually going to have a heavier traffic flow than we would have in a normal opening. Listening to parents out on the street every day, looking on social media, I don't think you're going to see a lot of kids riding the bus, at least this year. So I think it's going to compound the traffic volume and will be an excellent time assuming that they do get schools open, even on an intermittent basis. I honestly think we're going to see a heavier flow than normal, and use the old study as a baseline to look at, or a comparison anyway, and see what it looks like. I really do believe we're going to see a heavier flow, and if we plan for that, then we should be in decent shape.
Two things. One is, I think we need to just see what the schools are going to do and make sure we pass that along. And if your traffic consultant thinks that that's not going to give us a good look at reality, then we'd appreciate just, not putting money after bad if we're gonna be in a position to not be in a position to get a good, accurate look at it. That seems reasonable. But secondly, what I wanted to say was I believe, and I forwarded you, Ed, correct, the traffic memorandum that had been done.
You did. I forwarded that. Right.
And
right.
I don't know if anybody on this call has a different recollection. What I did, Tom and Ed asked us for the traffic study that was done for the middle high school project. So I contacted the planning office, and they were kind enough to send me what had been done. And it wasn't a full-blown traffic study. It was what we call in the industry a traffic memorandum, which is sort of not as detailed as a full-blown traffic study. They might not have studied as wide of an area, intersections and things. I didn't go through it in detail, but did that report, Ed, give your consultant any good information or how did?
I'd have to go back and look at that, Greg. I'm trying to find it on my computer right now and it's not jumping out at me, but I know you sent it. I'll make a note to check on it and then I'll check with him on it. What they did say, if school doesn't reopen, they can use certain factors that, based on their experience in other projects, that they could plug into the traffic study. But I think we probably should wait to see what happens with the school.
Yeah, I want to be careful with that because, and I'm sorry, I have to just be clear in my bias. I'm a civil engineer and I do these kind of things. I think that the factors probably work pretty well when you're down the road a piece from the schools, and you can get you got a project that's a mile away from the school, and there's going to be an uptick in traffic, and you can apply a factor. But we're dealing with a project that's actually physically on the school campus, and to the points that have been raised, I don't know if you're going to be able to apply a factor. It's going to be a lot different, than general. If let's just say, for example, the school goes every other day, we have half the students in the school every other day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be vastly different than what it would normally be. So I just want to caution you. I think that we'll just have to wait. That Tanner's point is extremely apropos. I think we need to wait to see what the school committee ends up doing and what reality is going to be in the fall, and then we'll communicate that with you. And let's just use caution and not put the cart before the horse on that, I guess.
Right. Yeah, we wouldn't start
recommendation.
until we know. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions on any of the overviews that Ed summarized? Okay. Go ahead. Sounds like maybe Tom is up.
So Tom's up. Yep.
Yeah, so
you want me to go to the top of this document, Tom?
yeah, and want to thank Heather for correcting some of the titles and spellings. And so we sent an updated version, but it doesn't really change the contents. So I just want to follow up with what Ed said about the different team members who were on site. So just to a couple of other architectural related items. One is that the folks doing the scanning, they're in the process of converting the scan into a Revit file. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to have we'll be able to use a very accurate file that is the exterior, interior, including the roof. The other thing that's happening is that we are in the process of doing a building code review, and we're going to have a walkthrough, just the person doing the code review, looking at the drawings, looking at the fuel conditions. So again, that's part of the study. We want to know what the limitations are and compare it with the findings from the different disciplines. And so moving back to the whole user meetings, so it was a directive from the committee several months ago that we want to talk to the potential users of the building. So the purpose of this round of meetings and is to get input to see what different town officials or staff members think of this project. We want to make sure we're on the same page or have a sense of where their heads are at, what are their concerns. Second is to just give them an update where we are at with the project, trying to get buy-in, trying to get as much support as possible. And finally is to see if there is any substantial change, any program change since a study was done by Katey Architects in 2015, 2016. So on the screen, you can see the list of folks that we have talked to, and we still need to have a couple more meetings with a few other folks, like the we still haven't talked to information about Selectman's office and then about the just went blank, the public access group. We're going to meet with them in a couple weeks. So so when we met with them, the meetings range from 20 to 40 minutes. And so I typically give them an update on the project and check on the spaces, if what they are working in, if those spaces work, and then finally ask them big picture related questions. What is the vision, and the way that we phrase this is, if you have to say it in a word or a phrase, how would you describe the project? And then we talk about what are some of the potential barriers, challenges, and priorities. So that said, the meeting notes has all the details, but I just want to give you folks a sense of where people are at. So when it comes to the vision or statement regarding what they think of the project, the 6 bullet points are what we find. So, and we heard from you folks several months ago. This is really consistent with what we've been talking about, efficient and functional, and the abbreviations in brackets are from the different departments, different representatives. So some items are more popular, shall we say, some are just comments made by one individual. So it just gives a sense of the level of intensity of the information. So, and this is by no means any order of priority, but so to summarize, the staff think that the project should be efficient and functional. In some cases, it's energy efficiency, that it should be comprehensive and multi-purpose, in the sense that we should really look, not just in the short term, but in the future, to look at spaces that serves multiple purposes. There's a lot of concern to make sure that the building is accessible. One-stop shop is the convenience for the residents. As you can see, there are quite a few comments from quite a few folks, and the several staff members mentioned the risk of crossing 2A to try to get to the Ritter building and come back to Town Hall. And And then there was also suggestions that there are other organizations that serves the need of the town that can use some of the public spaces. The last item being is should be contemporary lookings. And then sometimes the vision and the priorities are similar. So under the priority section, again, is a functional in the sense that it improves communication among the staff, energy efficiency. Here we are again, wheelchair accessible, restrict students and public access from roof. So there were some concerns that in the past that some students managed to climb through multiple steps into the roof and damage, either hurting themselves or damaging the skylights or different roof structure, more storage, discussions on making sure that there's enough space for the counters, and wayfinding being that both internal and external, that easy to find. The entrance, if we decided to have multiple different entrances to different departments, or once they get into the building. Again, I remember we talked about this several, maybe even at the first committee meeting, that people should be able to find where they want to go easily. If you could move to the next
sir.
page, please. So the next page is again, barriers and challenges. They're concerned about building and site security, building security in the sense of they don't want to mix traffic, that if there is a program for the school, they want to make or the kids, they want to make sure that the town offices are on a separate end that can be isolated, or site security. There were some concerns about, because there's still a school on campus, that bringing people who might be applying for getting a building permits or doing other town businesses, mixing different users on the site, phasing. They want to make sure that, because there are some functions that's in the building right now, that they want to address the fact that if we're doing construction, that it is thought through that where they are being relocated. Are they going to stay in the space during construction, or are they going to move somewhere else, or are we going to build somewhere else first and move that space in? Financing, will the town fund this project? There's also concerns of having vacant buildings. If the programs from Ritter and Town Hall move to the new building, what will happen to those existing buildings? There are concerns that because the building, and Ed has touched on some of those issues, is an older structure, that there will be a lot of repairs that is required, the volume of traffic. And then there's also the perception from some members of the town that TCP is a school, why use it as a town building, or the town hall is supposed to be for town offices, why move some of all the offices away from town hall? So it's a perception issue, but those are some of the challenges that the staff talked about. And just to some of the summary or areas that we find is that, and again, that was described the first meeting, that we want to keep the gymnasium because it was used, and here we are, that a lot of the staff members think we need to keep using the gymnasium. It is serving a lot of needs. And I haven't talked to the public access folks, so I don't know about the future location of the public access. One thing that we discovered when we were walking through the TCP is that there's a vault, and the question is, can we use the vault for the assessor's office? we need to define the extent of infrastructure upgrade. The folks from the IT department mentioned a bunch of stuff just to make sure if we have security systems or card readers, computer upgrade, Wi-Fi access, and so forth that we should define in this project. We did talk to the senior center and Boys and Girls Club, and for the senior center, basically they would like to have continued access to the gymnasium, to the multi-purpose rooms for some of the programs, and the Boys and Girls Club, security is an issue right now. After school events, activities take place both at their building, at the library for homework, and also at the gymnasium. So if they can be in the TCP, then they won't have to worry so much about watching the kids and be safe. One of the big area change is from the superintendent's office is the extended stay program, which is about 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, which in the 2015, 2016 study, it was not part of, it wasn't included. So there's a bump in the area. And the other thing, again, tied back to the whole Boys and Girls Club, it wasn't in that 2015, 2016 program study. So that has to be discussed with the committee. So these are some of the findings from meeting with the different folks in the town. And I still need to submit and send the draft meeting notes to the other town, the meeting participants, just to make sure that I didn't miss any key items. And as we are looking at the space program, we have a few more questions, one or two for each of the groups, so we can exchange those through emails just to make sure that we understand the space needs. So that's pretty much where we are at with this summarizing from, I believe it's about 10 meetings with the groups. That was very, very helpful.
Okay.
If there are no questions, I'd like to move on. I did, it was a little late, Greg. I sent you a couple of files. So do you mind to just open up that executive summary space program? And I will.
Let me.
Greg,
bear with
could
me here. I gotta
While you're
stop my
looking-
share.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, could I interject a comment or a request?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, one of my latest appointments is on the Capital Planning Committee. And I've attended most of their meetings for the past almost 2 years. And at the end of the prioritization process for the 2021 budget, there was discussion about hoping that a facilities project addressing envelope issues with all of the town buildings would be brought forward for the next fiscal year's consideration. A number of small projects that would tighten envelopes up and protect the integrity of the town's buildings as they awaited renovation. As you and your crews move forward through this process with TCP, I personally would be very appreciative to hear of any very serious red flag issues that you see that could be a very quick, inexpensive fix that will stop something that could cost us thousands of dollars 3 years from now when we finally get, whenever we do get this project off the ground. You mentioned the old library. I think everybody kind of feels that that's a lost cause already. But if there's other areas of the building that are going to be key to the reuse that could be stabilized for a small amount of money, it'd be very important that we be able to pass that on to whoever puts that proposal together. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Are there any other questions on what Tom has presented so far? Okay. Go ahead, Tom. I think, is this the document you were hoping for?
Yeah, thank you. So that's just the next step. So basically, the information that we gather from the different staff members is to help us to validate and verify the spaces. So last time we showed you a space program which has the departments and all the different rooms, starting from the 2016 study that had identified the existing spaces. So this is just a high-level executive summary showing how much spaces are in the department. What I'm trying to get at is that based on what we discovered near the bottom, that the total net square footage without including the Boys and Girls Club, but adding in the extended stay program is about 23,600 square feet. So, but that doesn't include partitions and stairs and other, an exterior wall and all that. So if we multiply by a factor of 1.5, that 23,000 becomes a 35,000 square feet. So, and then we did a quick check on the area from a diagram. So, and Greg, do you mind to open up the other, which is just a quick overall plan?
The one you sent in your latest email, Tom?
Yeah, that was the second attachment. So basically, oh, thank you.
I think I can rotate it here. Hold on.
So with the scanning, we're going to get a more accurate area, but I just want to say we just take a quick look and said that if everything stayed except the mechanical space, we had about 45,000 square feet building space, or if we exclude the gymnasium, is about 40,000 square feet. Looking at the space program, we have 35,000 square feet. So at this point, mathematically, it would fit, but obviously we have to do the layout to see. But I just want to have a very high level, quick assessments that things would fit if everything stays the way it is. So the next thing that we're going to do is to start looking at the adjacencies and say, look at the entry points. It might make sense to have a couple of different entry points depending on the functions so that we can separate the areas for security purposes. So that's the next, we'll be refining the space program and also have different diagrams and get your feedback at the next meeting and say, well, we like to put these departments here and there. These are some of the adjacencies. This will be the flow coming into the building. So it's a high level discussion. And after that, with your feedback, we can further develop the program. And instead of a block of space for say the town manager's office, we'll start identifying rooms and so forth. So that's where we're at, and that's where we will be heading the next few weeks. So.
Okay. Yep. Mr. Mackin, you're muted.
When you said that the program totals up to about 35,000 square feet, did the program include the extended day or did not include the extended day?
That included the extended day, but did not include the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have no specific questions, but I'd like to congratulate both of you for where we are at now. You know, with all the delays and everything, you guys have already pulled together an awful lot of information. I think we've got a pretty good picture of what we're starting with. I personally wasn't surprised with any of your evaluations of the structure itself. I've walked around that building. I've been inside the building off and on since 1953, 54. So I know the building inside and out. Again, no big surprises in what you presented this evening. And your next steps seem to clearly address what we've discussed in previous meetings as our concerns. So I look forward to the next round when all of that is worked into this process. Thank you.
I agree. And, thanks. It looks like a lot of work's been done, and it's good to see things moving. I guess, is there anything that you need from us in terms of, tonight, in terms of what, for your next tasks that are ahead of you prior to meeting next?
For me, it would be like the Boys and Girls Club. If there is any preference to have them move to this building.
Yeah, that's a big discussion.
They have they have their own board of directors too. So I think, doesn't their board of directors have quite a bit of say on whether they relocate or not?
Yeah, I mean, can I just ask
being on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, I know the board of directors are very interested in moving. They feel that if they had more room, more space, they could be able to extend the program to what a true Boys and Girls Club would be. In other words, moving it down to lower grades, actually doing a lot of the things that the extended daycare does. But they would look at that as it would open up for mentorship from the older kids to the younger kids, as well as they're investigating merging with another club, and having the facilities there would make it much simpler for them in that whole process of negotiation with another club. So they have by far blown out the amount of area they have. They need to revamp the club to begin with, and it's a matter of, do they spend money on the club, or do they look for a facility that's more conducive to them?
Okay, so thanks, Dave. What my question is, and I'm not sure who this question is even extended to, but maybe Heather, maybe our distinguished member of the select board. Where do we go? What is this committee's role in determining whether an organization like the Boys and Girls Club would be, I'll use the word included, not that I'm trying to be inclusive or exclusive, but it seems like a big decision. And how should that process flow? Or is it the prerogative of this committee? I guess I don't want to overstep or understep. So I'm looking for a little insight into how that would transpire. I mean, it seems to me there should be some sort of formal request by the Boys and Girls Club to somebody. And then, that flowing down from somebody to us. But that's my sort of high level question on this issue.
Heather, would you like?
I don't know if anybody's prepared to answer that or not, but Michael Ray, go ahead.
Heather, would you like for me to respond to this, or would you like to?
I just had a couple comments to make, and if you want to go first, that's fine.
Sure. I think I would say it is within the prerogative of this committee, but I also would caution though that I've heard a couple of concerns about the proximity to schools, and then having a program that then essentially has a very active usage of school-age children, combined with the important functions of town offices. I'd like to know if there are any other communities that have that type of hybrid. I've been to Tingsboro, where they do have a library mixed in with their town hall. But I'd be interested in learning if this is a common thing. I would, just how I sit, I would see that there's a distinctive difference between the functions of government and, you know, making better use of current space, and then this request from the Boys and Girls Club. But that's how I see it.
Okay. Heather?
I do agree that it's a much larger question and discussion that I think is not just within this committee's scope. There's other factors such as cost, what it's going to add to the cost. And currently the Boys and Girls Club, they don't pay anything towards the town as far as the building costs that they're in. So that would have to be part of the discussion as well. Because obviously the space needs would require that additional cost.
Yeah. Okay.
Guys, on a note on that, I also look at it here is that we've kind of opened, and I apologize because I wish Brian was here as well, and when I say this, but we've opened this up and said to the school, hey, how much room do you need? The school has other buildings that, you know, they got to decide on and have something done with before they just kind of keep taking more and more space. So if I look at it that way, you know, we are, you know, if I looked at the sheet that Tom showed, we just discussed, it showed that the school went from, say, 4,000 square feet to 8,000. They were doubling the size of what they needed. And that's a concern to me as well, because this is supposed to be for town hall, not, you know, it wasn't designed for the school board type of thing.
Well, our charge, remember, is to develop a cost estimate for the reuse of the building for town hall, school, and community uses.
Right. So after school care to me is the same as the Boys and Girls Club. It's just call it a different name, but Boys and Girls Club is after school care.
And it's certainly a community use if it's not at school use. So, I mean, it definitely fits into the category. I'm not questioning that. I just, you know, well, quite frankly, I mean, we heard from Tom that we've had members of our staff point to concerns that have been raised by others in the community that what are we going to do with the other buildings once we vacate them and put them into, and I know that's not the purview of this committee, but if we do the same thing for the Boys and Girls Club, we have a third one. And I just want to be careful this committee is doing what its purview is, and we're not making policy decisions on behalf of the town, right? We have a pretty specific charge, and so that's why I asked the question. And I guess, but I don't want to back burner this because this came up. We've talked about this, you know, periodically. Dave Blatt has brought this up, and at one point, the director was planning to come and kind of, you know, discuss it at a meeting, but I think a lot's happened since then with world, you know, COVID and things. So I just want to advance this to the extent and participate in the discussion as much as we need, as much as we're make ourselves available as part of this discussion, obviously, because it impacts this discussion, but I don't want to overstep our bounds. So, I mean, it seems like the onus would be on the Boys and Girls Club to make some sort of formal request. Seems like that might want to be done jointly to a couple different people, probably the select board and our committee certainly, but to me, that's what it is. And I guess I just want to be clear that we want to participate in this discussion. So, but we don't want to make policy decisions on behalf of the town. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Did you have something?
If I may, Greg, through you, I'd like to ask either Ed or Tom. Up to this point, you've had the Boys and Girls Club kind of sitting off to the side. You're aware of some of their needs, but you haven't had a full discussion with them. If we were to agree in a short period of time here to allow you to continue, or the Boys and Girls Clubs makes a formal pitch to this committee, could you, as you put the proposal together, have that as a capsule add-on to the overall project, because they're going to need specific space and they're going to be a separate entity that's going to need their own type of security, so on and so forth. I see that as a fairly easy capsule to attach a cost to and keep it separate from the overall project.
Go ahead, Tom.
So one thing I was going to say was that, again, we were just looking at numbers tonight. Haven't really done any layout. So I threw out that 35,000 square foot number, and that out of, let's say 35,000 out of 40,000 square feet without the Boys and Girls Club, we're going to throw in 4,000 square feet. So if we were to, I mean, just thinking from the planning standpoint, that it's going to get on the verge of, it may not fit. It might be that last piece that triggered more building. So that's just one thing. The second thing, to address Dave's point, is it's an easy, I mean, it's another box when we do the preliminary planning. It's 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. It's not that difficult to do it. I mean, we can continue on for a couple of meetings to include that. And maybe as an option is, if that doesn't happen, that might be more conference space or something. But again, the Boys and Girls Club, it would make sense to make it have some sort of a separate entrance and also make it close to the extended program, so that the school age kids would be on one end of wherever we decide that part of the complex it ought to be. So we definitely can take a look at these. We'll just have more flexibility if we don't need to include that 3,000-4,000 square feet.
Okay. So Dave Blatt, is it reasonable to expect that the Boys and Girls Club might be submitting something more formal?
Yes, I'll have them do that for you.
Okay. I mean, I'm not, to be clear, I'm not necessarily asking for it. I just.
No, they would like to. I've been kind of reporting for them back, kind of as a liaison as we look at it. But I know they would like to.
Okay, so I guess we'll keep an eye out for that, and when we see it, we will put it on our agenda. Is that fair?
Fair. Just like I said, they just want it to be investigated.
Okay.
And if I can add as
Go ahead, sir.
If I could add as well, I think that it's really, as I look around the buildings and I look around town, I recognize that there's a lot of need in a lot of different areas, and there are a lot of good points about what's going to happen when we leave, if town offices relocate, what's going to happen in the remaining buildings. How I perceive the scope of what we're trying to accomplish, though, is that we have a problem with the majority of our employees, that we're in multiple locations. And I would urge us to stay focused on what the problem and how we got to this point, which is that we have town employees walking across the building. If you don't know where to go, you might show you, there's 3 different locations. There's Town Hall A, there's Town Hall B, there's Town Hall C. And so, and most of these buildings, you can't come in the front door if you have accessibility concerns. So I think that, I would urge that that the focus of the group is on trying to resolve and remedy some of these issues with what we do with this new building. I would caution, though, that as we look at the schools, as we look at the Boys and Girls Club, first, I think our community is very committed to children. And that's evidenced, in my opinion, by the condition of the schools overall. They're in much better condition than everything else. The library, the fact that we have a Boys and Girls Club. I think that the town will remain committed to children and that there will be additional space potentially coming available. You know, I do see a separation in need that, you know, in the process of righting these wrongs, that certainly if there is an opportunity to provide the Boys and Girls Club with some space, then it may be a great thing. But I would not want to see costs raise or building needing more additional building needing to happen to be able to accommodate that. Because I do see that as a request just on the timeline that is happening while post-charge for this committee. So, you know, certainly I would also go back to the Board of Selectmen and also bring this issue up to see if this is something that the board intended when they created the committee to look at needs beyond town hall, Ritter building, and school, just as a point of clarification.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for being willing to pose that question. That would help. And I appreciate those comments.
If I may, just as a slight rebuttal to those previous comments, community use is included in our charge, and Boys and Girls Club is clearly a community use. So I don't think it's outside the purview of this committee. And I do, Mr. Jeffries, agree with you that our primary concern is town offices. I do agree with that. But community uses that can fit into the program are also part of our purview in my mind.
I agree with you. That's why I noted earlier that I think that it is something that this board could entertain. But I see that there's a point of clarification here.
And we appreciate your help with that. Thank you for bringing that back to the board. Okay. So, you know, that's not guidance for you, Tom, with respect to that issue, but it's certainly some dialogue for you to chew on. Was there anything else that you needed from us tonight before we move forward?
I'm all set.
Ed?
Well, I think I'm all set with the engineering side of things. I think our next steps is to finalize a report based on the current conditions of the building, taking those high-level bullet points that we presented tonight for architecture, structural MEP, civil site, environmental, hazmat, and putting those into a final report version. And hopefully the lab test results will be back within a 7-day turnaround, and we'll be able to wrap up the hazmat report and the environmental phase 1. So my hope is by our next meeting, we'll have a report ready to show you that includes all those aspects. But I think as far as info, the only possible thing we might reach out to John Launder about is some more utility related information. Our civil engineer is still trying to chase a few things down. I'm not clear on what the utility items are that he's still hunting down, but we may reach out to John to answer those questions, after which the land surveying drawings will be finished.
So we probably don't have anything in the triangle, so to speak, in going out towards Memorial Drive, but the school project reconstructed the road, portion of the road from the triangle to the new middle high school. Mm-hmm. So have you seen those drawings? Has John been able to provide you with those surveys, or I don't know if we even have any as-built?
I can't say that I've seen surveys of the school project.
So we should be able to find those somewhere. I can try to get, the only way I know how to get them is through the planning office. If it's not through John, if John doesn't have them. But I would try John first. He probably has copies of I believe the architects provided copies of all those documents to the facilities department.
Okay. Okay.
Mike, do you remember that at all? Mike Mackin, do you remember any of that?
Mike, you muted.
Sorry.
Hey.
Yeah, they should be on file.
And I don't know where else they would be other than in John Londa's hands.
John should have access to a lot of the documents, but I know that they were also filed with the town. Yeah.
They're filed with the planning department. So if John can't get them, talk to me and I can reach out to them, or you can feel free to reach out to our planner, Adam Burney, directly.
Okay.
They were very helpful with the traffic study. So, but that might have, electric, water, utilities in the access drive from 2A past the site, and
Right.
you know how those go. You might have some peripherals that'll help you get.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. We'll
Greg,
look for that.
Greg, I have a quick question for Ed.
Sure.
I didn't have time to thoroughly digest the report. I did get a chance to scan over it. I saw in a section talking about oil spills and thing. Was there a statement in there about a number 4 oil spill, but there was little information available about it? Do I have that right in my mind?
I'd have to look at that again. Let me pull that up. She noted any oil spills that she saw within the building and took some photographs in her report.
This was a number of years ago. And I think it was mentioned in here, and I thought, unless it was something else, that the statement was made that there was little information on it. If that's accurate, I'd like to make a comment. If it's not, then I'll withhold the comment.
Yeah, let me, just gonna pull that up. Let's see. Yeah, she notes, according to an on-site interview, John indicated 2 on-site underground storage tanks in the past, as well as the number 4 fuel oil spill greater than 5 gallons in the 1980s from a 10,000 gallon tank. As of this write-up, there are no records found regarding the spill or the 10,000 gallon tank. So that was from a discussion she had on site with John.
Okay, I don't think it will impact any issues in that area of the property and or this project, but I dare say that was the biggest spill that's ever happened in the town of Lunenburg and impacted an awful lot of environmentally sensitive areas. And I believe on site, it was basically a surface spill from a transfer and overfilling a tank. But ultimately ended up going down storm drains, down Route 2A, and out into wetlands. So just so that you're aware of that, it was a lot of years ago, and a lot of money and time was put in to mitigate that. So just so that you're aware of it, as I say, I don't think it should impact this project, but it should be noted in there, and there should be some extensive records because that was all on the town.
Yeah, that'd be an RTN number on the state's website, something that, it should be able to track that, I would imagine.
I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question for future thought. At what point would we see a preliminary parking plan or a layout for the property itself?
Tom and Ed?
Well, I think that play hand in hand with what Tom's doing with the building programming. Once we know if a wing's being demolished or not being demolished, I think once the building is laid out and we know where the access points are, then our civil engineers would know where the appropriate areas are to locate the parking to facilitate the building uses.
Thanks. I guess my concern, we have sort of the overall idea now that yes, the use can fit within the building, and now the next question is, can the parking fit within the property?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I don't know if we communicated this to you, the design team yet, but there's an ambient need for parking in that area before we put town offices there. So we already have a need for parking in that area. So you kind of keep that in mind as they're planning that, you know, if the program says we need, I don't know, 50 spaces, I'm making that up, that we may need to consider that as an add-on to spaces that we're already deficient in. So just kind of keep that in mind. I would imagine we'll have discussions on that moving forward as we see the plans. And
right.
Good point, Mike.
Schematic design and design development, that'll start playing out.
Yeah, but that's a good question, Mike. Thanks. Anybody else?
I just want to add on to, or the next step being that once we started laying out the diagram of the adjacencies, and it may fit mathematically, but from the flow and access standpoint, it just may not be the right shape. So obviously we'll present one option is to keep the building, but in order to optimize the adjacencies, we may decide that it makes more sense to, if we have to take part of a building off, both in terms of access from the site and also parking. But now that we have the general area, general program areas and the staff counts, we can at least project how many spaces right now. And the next thing is to find a location for them.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready to move on here. Next agenda topic is community outreach. We talked last time about a ledger article. And so that's the primary point that I wanted to discuss here. But I also wanted to make it known that we have a space now on the Lunenburg website. So we, under the government tab, you can, and under boards and committees, you can scroll down to TCP Building Design Committee, and we have some information there, and we expect to update that as we move through the process. So that's just for folks that may be watching this for their edification. But I wanted to talk about, well, I'm happy to talk about anything relative to community outreach, but specifically, I really wanted to talk about a Lunenburg Ledger article. I think, I can't remember who suggested it, but I think it's a good idea. And just, are there thoughts from the committee on timing? Are we at that point? And if so, what do we want to, maybe we could hash out an outline.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think we're a little ahead of ourselves on it. I think it's a good idea, but my concern would be misinformation in terms of we're not sure what we want to do with the Boys and Girls Club. We don't know how the building lays out, and especially right now where there's so much uncertainty with things, I think we should probably be a little bit more conservative with how much we advertise at this point. I'd just like to have a better vision to put forward that people can buy into, because if anything changes along the way, you need to re-educate people. You know, if you put an article out there that says there's going to be space for the Boys and Girls Club, and then it doesn't mathematically pan out, where are we then? So that'd be my only concern.
Okay.
Greg, if I may.
Yep. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Tanner, I agree with you. I think it's one or maybe two meetings premature to start advertising. Also on the on our committee site on the town's website, I would hope that maybe a meeting or two from now, when things start to gel a little bit better, there will be some of these analytical reports that will be appropriate to put up as links on that page. But I think it is premature at this point. Thank you.
I want to talk to that point, that last point. You know, it's my opinion that we've sort of said from the beginning, it was one of our goals to be as transparent as possible. It's the reason why we're committed to videotaping all of our meetings. And, you know, so I really want to make those documents available. I'd really like to prioritize that. So as we have final, I know the things that you presented tonight are not final reports, but as we get them, I'd really like to make that available if and when it's possible.
Yeah. And that might be the appropriate time to put an article in the Ledger when we are finally putting reports there. Then we advertise, this is where we are at, and this is the information that's available and where you can access it.
That's fine. I bring it up for that reason. Anybody have any other thoughts on that? Okay, that's fine.
I think if we keep
go ahead, Dave.
community outreach on our agenda for every meeting, then we can review it each time.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does anybody have any new business? And I have one. I think he was the chairman of the PAC, of the Public Access Cable, reached out to me relative to your upcoming meeting, working group meeting, regarding anything that he needs from our committee. I mean, is there anything that, I mean, you're just doing a brainstorming session with them, correct? So there's nothing that we need to provide.
Yeah, that's why I didn't really bring anything to the other meetings. I had the program that was done several years ago just as a reference document. I didn't show the staff anything. Just want to see what your space requirements are. What do you think of the project, that type of thing. So
I reached out via email. I just wanted to make sure that and I'll respond just for the committee's benefit. I'll respond back to him, but I just wanted to, I guess, let everybody know that he had reached out, and he, I think, is anticipating bringing this topic up at their next meeting, which I think might be in advance of when you're meeting with him. So anyway, just wanted to raise that.
And I will respond to his email and just basically saying that this is for brainstorming. Just
okay. Oh, did he copy you on that too, Tom?
Okay.
Well, I didn't see who that went to. So if it went to you, that's fine too. So no problem. Anybody else? Okay. Future meetings. I am looking for direction from the architects on this. When do you think the next touch point should be?
We've got one on the schedule tentatively on that revised schedule for the week of August 10th. Tom, would that be too early?
Well, I am trying to be off next week, so if we can push it another week, that would be much appreciated. But if we need to have, I think there's enough fluff in the schedule that it's not going to, if we meet in 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks, it's not going to jeopardize the schedule for the project. So,
so you're talking about the 19th, which would be 3 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I will be away that day.
Okay. Eventually, I want to get on a regimented schedule. I really, you know, it's, I know this committee has a hard time with that because we have so many, even our citizens at large are on committees, especially Dave. So we have a hard time every night of the week is booked, but I really do want to get on a regimented schedule. So I think that maybe when we look at getting into September, perhaps we look to solidify 2 meeting slots a month and just roll with it. So I think, why don't we plan, does anybody else have a conflict with the 19th of August?
I would
Okay.
guess that, is that a school committee night?
I wouldn't doubt it, or a ZBA night.
Yeah.
I think it will be a ZBA night.
Yeah,
It's
just to
probably
let
gonna
you
be-
know, my Mondays are wide open now.
Okay.
Other than parks having to reschedule occasionally. We had a glitch, so we had to reschedule for this coming Monday. But if it worked for the rest of the group, I've got Mondays wide
Monday's the
open.
planning board, correct, Tanner?
Second,
Oh yeah, that's right. I knew there was something.
I'm pretty
So-
sure school committee is second and fourth Wednesday.
School committee 2nd and 4th. Okay, so they're probably all right, but there'd be a ZBA meeting.
Correct. No.
And then I can't remember planning board. Is it 2nd and 4th or 1st and 3rd?
Second and fourth Monday.
2nd and 4th Mondays.
Yeah.
So we could do the 17th then, presumably. Monday the 17th. How does that work for people?
Works for me.
At this point, I'm not allowed to travel, so it works for me.
Okay. All right.
I'm basically out from Monday to Thursday of that week.
Okay. So it doesn't matter. So, but let's do it on let's do it on the Monday night, because that will not correspond with the zoning board of appeals or another meeting. So, all right. So August 17th, and then let's set at that meeting. Let's try to come prepared to talk about setting an actual schedule moving forward. And I'd rather just set them and cancel one and go to the 4th, go to the next one. But I think in the interest of everybody's sanity, it'd be good to have just like Tanner knows he meets on the 2nd and 4th Monday. I'd like to know that this committee meets on the whatever. So we'll do that next time.
I think the first and third Monday should work.
Yeah, maybe that's what we do. But let's talk about that on, it won't work.
And going into September, that puts us off of the holiday weekend.
Yeah.
We'll finalize that next meeting, but that looks like it would be a good rotation.
Do we want to, I'm happy to make this call right now. Do we want to do that? Do we want to just say it's the 1st and 3rd Monday?
Works for me.
Okay.
Greg, it may be helpful as far as this project to take a look at the schedule that we sent to you that kind of shows all the tasks and when we expect to have different reports available. That may be to this train of thought.
All right. Well, let's then, to that point, let's discuss this in greater detail next time. Let's plan for the August 17th, and then we'll review that relative to moving forward into September or October and beyond.
The other point, if we have a meeting or two in between that there isn't much new from the DeGiorgio's point of view, we could be working on outreach projects and stuff like that as a committee and concentrate on that. So
yep, that's true. So it's not a wasted meeting. We can focus on. Okay, that's fair. We'll let's take that up next time and plan that out. Okay. Public comment. Is there any public comment from the public? Is there any public comment from the committee members? And I have one to start, and I'll hang on one second, Michael Ray. Before I took public comment from the committee, I wanted to say that I meant to put public comment at the beginning of the meeting. And I know there was 2 people in this meeting who may have wanted to say something and may have had an overlapping meeting, and I wanted to apologize. I will put this on at the beginning of our agenda and at the end of our agenda moving forward. I think I moved it just to the end as we were doing Zoom in an effort to try and avoid, in an effort to try and adjust to this new public meeting format. But I just wanted to say that I think we've adjusted adequately, and we can certainly accommodate public comment on the front end and the back end in case people want to say something and don't want to wait for the whole meeting. So, Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, I just want to say hello to everyone as a new member of this committee. Certainly I am very excited about us resolving the problems that we're facing as a town, with regard to our buildings. I moved to Lindbergh when I was 10, and I remember when Town Hall was Town Hall and Ritter Building was a library I went to after school with my friends. And I think, I, as many other residents, have a lot of good memories of, I didn't go to TC Passos Elementary School. I started off 5th grade at Turkey Hill. But certainly, I think we all have some good memories of the town. So my comment really tonight is really just to say hello to you guys and give you a little bit more background that, what I do outside of being a selectman, every Tuesdays is I manage property for a living, and I manage capital projects at those properties. So I work in the Boston area. I'm based out of Boston, but the properties I manage are mostly in Watertown and in Lincoln. And it's about $200 million of property. And every year I do about $4 million in capital projects. So that's the experience that I come here with. I certainly don't have any vision yet of what this will look like, aside from resolving the concerns with our employees at the 2 buildings. I'm equally committed as everyone else to being a community partner here, and listening and really just kind of helping everyone move everything forward. So I look forward to working with you guys in the coming months, and I want to be very transparent that if at any point in time I am offensive or if I offend you, I certainly, I know some things are unintentional, but I want to give you guys my number, and that way we can talk. And it's never my intention to upset anyone or to be a controversial person. I'm here to help get things done. So.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just make a little add on to Michael's comments. Welcome, Michael. I think you're a great addition to this group. Over the number of months, as you know, or years actually, of watching meetings, attending meetings, and so on, I think there's a point that you just have to say what you're thinking. Yeah, you're going to get some blowback. It's kind of like throwing mud at the wall, see if it's going to stick or come flying back at you. But there are times where you just have to say what you think. And not everybody's going to agree with you, but some are going to agree with you. And, you just have to say it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. No particular order. Michael Ray.
Aye.
Michael Mackin.
Aye.
Tanner Cole.
Aye.
Dave Blatt.
Aye.
Dave Passios.
Aye.
Aye for me. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you
Good
in
night,
3 weeks.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, guys.